Disrespect never announces itself with violence. It arrives softly, disguised as humor, tone, timing, and implication. A pause where acknowledgement should exist. A smile that carries dismissal. A comment framed as harmless but designed to land sharp. Most people miss it because they are trained to look for noise instead of signals. By the time the disrespect becomes obvious, the hierarchy has already been set and accepted. That is how power shifts without resistance. The first mistake people make is assuming disrespect is accidental. It is not. It is diagnostic. When someone tests you, they are gathering information. They are asking a silent question about consequences. Will this person respond or absorb? Will they push back or fold? Every ignored slight answers that question clearly. Silence without intention is interpreted as permission. Those who are repeatedly disrespected are not always weaker in ability or intelligence. They are weaker in enforcement. They confuse kindness with tolerance. They believe patience will be rewarded in environments that reward dominance. They wait for fairness in systems that do not operate on fairness. This misunderstanding turns capable people into easy targets. Disrespect functions as a probe. It measures how much resistance exists. When resistance is low, pressure increases. What begins as teasing becomes interruption. Interruption becomes exclusion. Exclusion becomes erasure. Each stage feels small enough to excuse on its own, yet devastating in sequence. This is how people lose ground without noticing the loss. Those who command respect understand this progression intuitively. They do not react emotionally, but they do respond decisively. They recognize the first signal as the most important one. Early enforcement prevents escalation. Delayed enforcement invites repetition. The illusion of being the bigger person traps many into long-term disadvantage. They absorb behavior that should have been corrected because confrontation feels uncomfortable. But avoidance has a cost. Every unchallenged slight compounds. Over time, others no longer see a boundary at all. They see availability. Power dynamics exist in every interaction, whether acknowledged or not. Conversations are negotiations. Attention is currency. Treatment reflects perceived value. When someone devalues you subtly, they are testing whether that valuation will be accepted. Acceptance locks it in place. The dangerous part of disrespect is not the behavior itself, but the story you tell yourself about it. When you rationalize mistreatment, you internalize inferiority. When you excuse patterns, you normalize them. This internal shift is what others eventually sense and exploit. Strategic individuals do not ask why disrespect happens, they ask what it reveals. They observe who initiates it, when it occurs, and how it escalates. They treat it as data, not insult. This emotional distance preserves clarity. Respect is not requested, it is conditioned. People treat you based on past outcomes. If past disrespect resulted in discomfort, distance, or consequence, future disrespect becomes unlikely. If it resulted in nothing, repetition is guaranteed. The earliest response matters more than the loudest response. Overreaction damages credibility. Underreaction destroys authority. Precision sits between the two. A measured response delivered immediately reshapes perception without drama. Those who understand this never chase validation. They do not argue their worth. They demonstrate it through boundaries that remain intact under pressure. They make it costly to misjudge them. The difference between weakness and strength is not emotion but control. Emotion felt privately does not weaken. Emotion displayed impulsively does. Control is what others read as power. Disrespect thrives where ambiguity exists. When standards are unclear, opportunists fill the gap. Clear standards remove opportunity. Enforcement removes incentive. Most people fear enforcing boundaries because they fear losing connection. They do not realize that connections built on tolerated disrespect are already lost. What remains is proximity without regard. Those who maintain standards lose fewer people than expected. They lose the wrong ones. What replaces them are individuals who respect limits because they respect themselves. The moment you stop seeing disrespect as a personal attack and start seeing it as a test, your behavior changes. Tests are passed or failed. They are not debated. This shift ends rumination. You no longer replay conversations wondering what you should have said. You respond in real time with intention. The mind grows quiet when action aligns with self-respect. The unspoken rule is simple. What you tolerate defines you more than what you demand. Demands without enforcement are ignored. Tolerance without boundaries is exploited. Those who master respect do not seek to dominate. They seek to be unmisunderstood. Their presence communicates limits before words are required. This is not about hostility. It is about clarity. Clear people are rarely challenged twice. Unclear people are tested endlessly. The first signal sets the tone. Address it correctly and the rest never arrives. Ignore it and everything that follows is earned. This is where the real work begins. Silence is misunderstood because most people use it incorrectly. They go quiet when they feel small, when they feel unsure, when they feel defeated. That kind of silence leaks weakness. It invites escalation. It signals surrender. Strategic silence is the opposite. It is chosen, not forced. It is calm, not tense. It communicates evaluation rather than fear. When someone disrespects you and you respond with controlled silence, the power dynamic shifts immediately. The expected rhythm breaks. They anticipated laughter, justification, or retaliation. Instead, they receive nothing. That absence forces them to confront themselves. Their words linger without validation. Their intent becomes visible. Silence works because most people are uncomfortable without feedback. They rely on reaction to orient themselves socially. When you remove reaction, they lose footing. Uncertainty enters. Uncertainty weakens confidence. This is why eye contact matters during silence. Looking away signals avoidance. Looking directly while saying nothing signals assessment. It communicates that you heard everything and are deciding how to proceed. That decision process creates tension. Tension favors the composed. The one who can sit in it without rushing gains control. Others rush to relieve it. They explain. They backtrack. They apologize. They reveal insecurity. None of this requires effort from you. Silence should never be accompanied by nervous gestures. Stillness amplifies its effect. Movement dilutes it. The body must match the message. Calm posture, relaxed breathing, steady gaze. These elements tell a coherent story. The story is simple. You are not affected, but you are aware. Awareness without reaction unsettles those who intended harm. Silence also prevents self-sabotage. Many people talk themselves into lower status by over-explaining. They try to correct perception verbally instead of behaviorally. Words cannot repair a damaged power frame. Only consequences can. By staying silent, you buy time. Time allows better decisions. Immediate responses often serve emotion. Delayed responses serve strategy. Strategic silence does not mean permanent withdrawal. It means choosing when engagement is profitable. Not every provocation deserves acknowledgement. Selectivity preserves authority. Those who speak constantly devalue their words. Scarcity increases impact. When you speak rarely, attention sharpens. People listen differently. They assume importance. Consistency reinforces this effect. Silence used once is confusing. Silence used consistently becomes a signal. Others learn what it means. They adjust behavior accordingly. Predictability in response builds reputation. When people know that disrespect results in disengagement, they avoid it. Not out of fear, but out of self-interest. Self-interest governs behavior more reliably than morality. Those who understand this stop appealing to fairness. They appeal to incentives. Incentives do not require threats. They require structure. Structure is created through repeated cause and effect. The same response delivered every time teaches faster than lectures. Boundaries explained are negotiable. Boundaries enforced are final. Most people fail at this stage. They enforce once, then soften. They excuse behavior due to mood, history, or guilt. Each exception weakens the system. Inconsistency invites testing. Testing invites escalation. Escalation invites conflict. Conflict drains energy. Consistent enforcement prevents conflict entirely. People self-regulate when outcomes are known. This applies to subtle behaviors as much as obvious ones. Tone, timing, body language. Patterns matter more than incidents. When someone consistently interrupts, a consistent pause before continuing trains respect. When someone consistently dismisses, consistent disengagement retrains access. Access is leverage. Attention is leverage. Availability is leverage. Remove leverage and behavior changes. You do not need to confront verbally to correct behavior. You need to adjust access. Those who lose respect often give unlimited access. They respond instantly. They over-accommodate. They signal need. Need is read as weakness. Independence is read as strength. Strength does not require aggression. It requires self-containment. The more self-contained you are, the less others attempt to control you. Control requires hooks. Silence removes hooks. This is why emotionally reactive people are targeted. Their reactions provide leverage. Calm individuals offer nothing to grab. Over time, this dynamic reshapes your environment. People who rely on dominance avoid you. People who respect boundaries align with you. The quality of interaction improves. Drama decreases. Conversations become purposeful. Silence also filters alliances. Those who respect it stay. Those who resent it leave. This sorting improves outcomes long term. This process feels uncomfortable initially. Old patterns resist change. People accustomed to access push back. That pushback is confirmation. It reveals who benefited from your previous silence without boundaries. When resistance appears, consistency matters most. Breaking under pressure resets the hierarchy. Holding steady finalizes it. This is the crucible. Many fail here. They mistake discomfort for error. They revert to old habits to restore familiarity. Familiarity is not safety. It is stagnation. Growth requires tolerating temporary tension. Silence creates that tension. Enduring it strengthens presence. Presence grows through repetition. Each successful enforcement builds confidence. Confidence simplifies future decisions. Eventually, silence becomes natural. You no longer calculate. You simply choose. At that point, respect is no longer something you manage. It is something you attract. The environment adapts around you. Behavior improves without instruction. This is the foundation. Part C. The most effective response to disrespect is not equal force, but asymmetry. Equal force creates conflict. Asymmetry creates memory. When your reaction is colder, quieter, and more controlled than expected, it breaks pattern recognition. People remember pattern breaks. They forget predictable exchanges. Predictability is safety for aggressors. They rely on known outcomes. If they tease, you laugh. If they push, you explain. If they interrupt, you compete for attention. These responses reassure them. They know the limits. They know how far they can go. When your response does not match expectation, the mind recalculates. That recalculation creates hesitation. Hesitation is where power shifts. A disproportionate response does not mean emotional excess. It means consequence outweighs offense. A small slight met with withdrawal of access is more effective than a large confrontation. The cost lingers. Withdrawal is powerful because it removes reward. Many disrespectful behaviors are fueled by reaction. Laughter, irritation, argument, explanation, all are engagement. Engagement feeds behavior. When engagement stops, the behavior loses purpose. The person is left alone with their intent. That isolation creates discomfort. Distance communicates seriousness. It tells others that access to you is conditional. Conditional access creates value. Unlimited access creates disregard. The mistake many make is attempting to educate disrespectful people. They explain why the behavior was wrong. They appeal to empathy. This rarely works because empathy was not missing. Incentive was. Behavior changes when incentives change. Consequences are incentives. Consequences must be consistent and noticeable. They must affect something the other person values. Attention, inclusion, proximity, information. These are currencies. When someone disrespects you and loses access to one of these currencies, the lesson embeds. This does not require confrontation. In fact, the absence of confrontation often amplifies the effect. The mind searches for cause. The pattern becomes clear. Those who value you will adjust. Those who do not will resent. Resentment confirms correct assessment. Not everyone deserves explanation. Explanation implies negotiation. Boundaries are not negotiated. They are enforced. This is where many weaken. They fear being misunderstood. They rush to clarify. In doing so, they reopen access prematurely. Misunderstanding is less costly than misplacement. Being misunderstood by those who do not respect you is irrelevant. The goal is not to be liked universally. It is to be treated appropriately, selectively. Selective engagement builds aura. Aura is the unspoken perception that interaction with you carries weight. Weight creates caution. Caution creates respect. Aura is built through small decisions repeated. Who you respond to, how quickly, under what conditions. Each decision communicates value. Those who respond immediately to everyone signal availability. Those who respond deliberately signal priority. Priority is power. When you treat your time and attention as valuable, others follow suit. When you give them freely, others spend them freely. The cold response is not cruel, it is clean. It removes drama, it removes ambiguity. Drama benefits manipulators. Clarity benefits leaders. Leaders do not argue standards, they demonstrate them. Demonstration is behavior aligned with consequence. When someone crosses a line and finds the environment unchanged, they cross again. When the environment shifts, behavior adapts. This is behavioral conditioning at a social level. Those who understand this stop feeling offended. Offense is emotional. Conditioning is strategic. Once strategy replaces emotion, control becomes easier. You are no longer reacting to insult. You are managing outcomes. This perspective shift eliminates rumination. There is nothing to replay. The response was intentional. Intentional responses build internal alignment. You act in accordance with self-respect. This alignment strengthens confidence. Confidence reduces the need to prove. The need to prove invites challenge. Those who prove invite judgment. Those who act invite alignment. Alignment attracts similar energy. Over time, the environment mirrors your standards. This is how reputation forms. Reputation is not what you say about yourself, it is what others expect before interacting with you. Expectation guides behavior. When people expect firmness, they approach carefully. When they expect flexibility, they push. Flexibility without boundaries is weakness. Flexibility within boundaries is strength. Strength feels calm. It does not rush. It does not explain. It does not seek approval. Those who internalize this stop reacting publicly and start responding structurally. Structural responses change access, not emotion. Emotion fades. Structure remains. This is why the most powerful individuals rarely appear angry. They do not need to be. Systems do the work. Systems are invisible but effective. Once established, they require minimal effort. Others adapt automatically. At this stage, disrespect becomes rare. When it appears, it stands out. It is addressed quickly. Quick correction prevents spread. The earlier the response, the lighter it can be. Delayed responses require heavier consequences. This is why awareness matters. Recognizing subtle disrespect early saves energy later. Awareness is sharpened through detachment. Detachment removes personal sting. It clarifies signal. Signal guides response. Over time, this approach transforms not only how others treat you, but how you experience interaction. Calm replaces vigilance. Confidence replaces anxiety. You are no longer scanning for threat. You trust your ability to respond effectively. That trust relaxes the nervous system. Relaxation improves presence. Presence is felt before words. When presence is strong, words become secondary. This is where power becomes quiet. At the highest level, disrespect becomes irrelevant. Not because it disappears, but because it loses leverage. When you no longer react emotionally, disrespect stops being a weapon and becomes a signal. A signal you know how to read and neutralize. The shift is internal first. You stop asking why people act a certain way. You start observing how they act and adjusting accordingly. Curiosity replaces offense. Strategy replaces reaction. This is the moment you stop personalizing behavior and start categorizing it. Every interaction provides data, tone, timing, consistency, intent. Patterns emerge quickly when emotion is removed. Those patterns guide decisions. Who gets access? Who gets distance? Who gets nothing at all? Distance is not punishment. It is alignment. You are aligning your environment with your standards. Many confuse alignment with isolation. They fear being alone. They cling to disrespectful connections out of habit, out of history, out of misplaced loyalty. History does not justify present cost. Loyalty that demands self-abandonment is not loyalty. It is dependency. When you release dependency, freedom follows. Freedom sharpens discernment. Discernment refines choice. Choice is power. With power comes responsibility. You no longer react impulsively, you choose deliberately. This choice extends beyond conflict into every domain of life. Your speech slows. Your movements become economical. You no longer rush to fill silence. Silence becomes a tool, not a threat. In conversations, you listen more than you speak. Listening reveals more than talking ever will. People expose themselves when given space. You stop oversharing. Information becomes currency, not confession. You decide what is shared and when. This control shifts dynamics instantly. Those accustomed to extracting emotional reactions find nothing to pull from. They grow uncomfortable. Some retreat. Some escalate. Escalation exposes intent. Exposure clarifies decisions. The calm response to escalation is consistency. Not escalation in return, not justification. Simply repetition of boundary through behavior. Boundaries expressed through action are unarguable. You leave when disrespected. You disengage when dismissed. You do not announce. You do not threaten. You simply move. Movement is final. Words invite debate. Movement ends discussion. Those who matter notice, those who do not fade. Over time, the quality of your circle improves. Fewer interactions, higher signal, less noise. With less noise, intuition sharpens. You begin to sense shifts before they occur. Tone changes, energy shifts. You adjust early. Early adjustment prevents damage. This is how influence grows without force. Others begin to mirror your behavior. Conversations slow. Interactions become cleaner. Drama avoids you, not because you are intimidating, but because you are unresponsive to chaos. Chaos feeds on reaction. Deprived of fuel, it collapses. This is where respect becomes natural. It is no longer enforced. It is assumed. Assumption is the final stage of power. People approach differently. They choose words carefully. They check tone unconsciously. They sense boundary without being told. This is presence. Presence is not charisma. It is coherence. Internal alignment expressed externally. When thoughts, values, and actions align, there is no friction. That lack of friction reads as confidence. Confidence invites trust. Trust invites cooperation. Those who cooperate treat you well. Those who do not remove themselves. You no longer chase respect. You curate environment. Curation is selection. Selection implies value. Value is recognized. This entire process requires patience. Early stages feel uncomfortable. Old patterns resist change. People test harder when boundaries appear. Testing is confirmation. It means the shift is working. Each test passed strengthens resolve. Each consequence delivered reinforces reputation. Reputation is slow to build and fast to destroy. One emotional outburst can undo months of discipline. This is why restraint is essential, not suppression. Restraint. You allow emotion internally but govern expression externally. Expression without governance is exposure. Exposure invites exploitation. Governance protects power. Over time, restraint becomes automatic. You no longer fight impulse. Impulse weakens. Weak impulse frees energy for higher focus. Focus redirects life. You spend less time managing reactions and more time building direction. Goals clarify. Decisions simplify. Simplicity is strength. The strongest individuals are not complex, they are clear. Clarity intimidates confusion. Confused people seek to disrupt clarity. They poke, they test, they provoke. Clarity does not engage. It continues forward. Forward motion leaves provocation behind. Eventually, disrespect becomes rare. When it occurs, it is brief and ineffective. You are no longer reactive terrain. You are solid ground. Ground does not chase storms. Storms pass. This is not coldness. It is maturity. Emotional maturity paired with strategic awareness. Awareness without strategy creates anxiety. Strategy without awareness creates rigidity. Together, they create mastery. Mastery is quiet. Quiet mastery attracts without effort. Those who operate this way are often underestimated early. Silence is mistaken for weakness by the impatient. That mistake corrects itself. Results speak. Consistency compounds. Years later, people describe you with words they cannot fully explain. Solid, grounded, respected. They say you are hard to read, that you do not react like others, that being around you feels different. That difference is discipline. Discipline over time becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. This is the end of reaction and the beginning of command. Not command over others, but command over self. Self-command is the only command that lasts. When you master this, you do not need to defend dignity. Dignity is assumed. You do not argue worth. Worth is evident. You do not seek respect. Respect arrives. This is how the quietly powerful live, and once lived, it cannot be unlearned.